Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views. And up next, we're going to be having another inspiring edition of hashtag Fired Up, which is proudly brought to you by Africa Muslims Agency. And we're thrilled to be joined by Ashraf Gangrekar. He's a dedicated member of AMA as we dive deep into, I think, a topic that resonates with so many of us, especially in this blessed month of Ramadan. And the topic today is forgiveness in a world where it's often easier to hold grudges than to let go. Ashraf, assalamu alaikum. Always a pleasure having you on
Salam,
board.
my brother Salelo. How you doing? Always good to be speaking to you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I think you have a really interesting topic today, forgiveness. And I think it's a very, very important one, especially in this blessed month of
Yeah,
Ramadan.
no, absolutely. And Salelo, listen, we're still in the second 10 days of the Ramadan, right? And
Yeah.
this is the days of forgiveness. Now, I know, I think on Wednesday, when the 10 days started, I spoke first about forgiving yourself. Some of us are just too hard on ourselves, right? And like whatever mistakes we've made in the past, we're still hanging on to it and think that it's defined us when it's perfectly possible that Allah has forgiven us for this, ages ago, but it's still weighing us down. And in these days of forgiveness, I want to perhaps speak about forgiving others. Very, very difficult for many people, and it's easier said than done, and I mean it, right? But if you
Mm.
don't mind, Salero, I'm going to take this over 2 days. The first is I simply want to relate an incident that happened in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and I'll speak a bit quickly because I know my time is limited. And many of us might be familiar with this incident. But in these days of forgiveness of Ramadan, and we're all asking Allah for His forgiveness and for our family, etc. The Prophet one day, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was sitting in his mosque, and he was sitting in the mosque, and he was sitting and surrounded with his companions. Yes, and he says to them, "The next person who comes into this mosque is a man of the Jannah." And all the prophets, all the companions turned to the entrance, and in inverted commas, an ordinary man walked in. There's nothing exceptional about him. He didn't look any different. He had just come to offer his prayers. The next day, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the companions, and he says, "The next man who walks in through this door, he will be a man of the Jannah." And it was the same man who came up and did nothing extra. He just, prayed his prayer and went off. The same thing happened the third day. At the end of the third day, one of the companions said, "No, no, no, I got to find out what this man does." And so he really concocts a story, and it's, again, in Islamic tradition and, culture, that if a visitor comes to your door and he's looking for a space, you can house him for 3 days. Knocked on the man's door and says, "Oh, no, I'm having some issues at home. Can I come and stay with you for 3 days?" Now, the purpose was, bottom line, that he wanted to observe this person who the Prophet had said is a man of the Jannah. And so the guest, let's say the host and the guest, right? Some of
Mhm.
the narration speaks about that the man's name is Abu Damdam. It cannot be confirmed, so, I don't know. Then the guest, he spends the time watching the host. And they get to pray Maghrib, they have dinner, they go and pray Isha, they come back. And in the entire day, the entire night, the guest stays awake watching the host. But the host is happily getting into bed and snores, doesn't, some of the narrations didn't even get up for tahajjud, and he wakes at Fajr. Bottom line, Salelo, the host does nothing extra or special or anything like that. And the guy says, "Look, I better stay with him one more day." They stay together for about 2 or 3 days. And eventually the guest says, "Man, listen, I need to be honest with you. I want to tell you that in fact, there's nothing wrong in my home. But the Prophet ﷺ had said this of you, that you're a man of the Jannah. So I came to be with you so that I could learn and learn from you to be a person of the Jannah." He says, "But I've seen nothing special about you. You haven't prayed any extra. You didn't fast any extra. What do you do that speaks that the Prophet ﷺ will say to you that you're a man of the Jannah?" And the host replies, "No, I don't do anything. I mean, you've seen. I don't do anything extra. I do what is extra." And then he sits quietly for a bit. He says, "There could be one thing. Every night when I go to bed and I put my head on the pillow, I look into my heart and I clean it of all malice. I think of every time I got angry today, and then I forgive this person who made me angry. If anybody said anything I didn't like, I forgive that. So I go and sleep every night with a clean heart, having forgiven all of Allah's creation, whether intentionally or unintentionally who have hurt me. I don't carry any grudge or malice against anybody. And perhaps with this sense of heart, this is why the Prophet says, I am a man of Jannah. Now, if that is the case, Talela, okay, the host, then the guest goes back to the Prophet who then confirms it, right? If
Mm.
that is the state of what our hearts could be like, then we need to be sitting and talking tomorrow, inshallah, as to what are the things that we can do to try to reach that level, that we forgive others so that we ourselves are cleansed rather than worrying who is right and who is wrong. That's it, my man.
Hmm. 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 And I think yeah, yeah, it's hitting in all the right places. Yeah.
Okay, then
So
it's working.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think yeah, this was a brilliant edition of hashtag Fired Up. Ashraf, Jazakallah so much for joining us, and
Great stuff, bro.
looking forward to tomorrow's one. Yeah, this
Looking
one
forward to it.
really, really makes you think.
Right, Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. That was Ashraf Gangrekar from Africa Muslims Agency. And I think, yeah, fired up most definitely. And today's topic, I think, really, really resonates, particularly in this month of Ramadan. Forgiveness, especially in a world where it's often easier to hold grudges than to let go. I think Ashraf offered really important insights on the power of forgiveness and how it plays a pivotal role in our spiritual growth. It's been another awesome edition of News and Views. I'll be with you again for the Tuesday edition of the show. And thank you so much for joining us and for being part of this experience. We'll be with you again tomorrow. For myself, Salailo, and the rest of the team, is Shap Shap.